garden friends. Welcome to another episode of AJ's Green Thumb. In tonight's episode, I'll be bringing to you dahlias. I'm pretty excited to bring this episode to you today because it's been long waited for. It is about the dahlia tubers that I've had in storage for the past 5 months. So we're removing them from storage and I'm going to inspect each tuber and make sure it's viable so that I can go ahead and pot it up in preparation for planting in the garden later on in spring. So at this time, all of your dahlias start to come out of dormancy. And the way you can tell is by the eyes that start to form coming out of your tubers. And they generally form around the union of the neck and the center tuber. So these two right here, I lost a tag, but I'm pretty sure they're Miss Brandy because I looked through everything else and the rest all are tagged. So that's another thing that you may experience as you're removing all of your tubers from dormancy. You may have lost tags and you may have misplaced tags and so forth, and you just may not know what you have anymore. So the best thing to do is just pot it up and wait till it flowers. So before we dive into the existing tubers that I have, I want to show you guys some new tubers that I picked up. I think it was a sale at Home Depot and I couldn't pass it up. This one here is Dahlia fimbriata. Check out that flower. So this is a tall dahlia. This is called a dinner plate dahlia. It gets to be between 3 and 4 feet. So it's average to tall in terms of dahlia heights. This one right here is called powder puff. This is also a medium-sized dahlia. It gets between 36 inches and 40 inches. So just under 4 feet. And last but not least, this is a dahlia, a decorative dahlia called Double Jill. And that's pretty too. So this one gets to be between 3 and 4 feet. So I'm gonna pot all of these up. All right, so let's zoom in real quick so I can show you what we're looking at or what the indications are that your dahlia tuber is actually coming out of dormancy. All right, guys, so in Miss Brandy right here, I really need a magnifying glass, but I think you guys are able to see exactly what I'm talking about here, because this eye is relatively pronounced. Now, looking head on to the tuber, I'm going to use my X-Acto knife here as a pointer. Right here, okay, right here is an eye. It's going very close. So that's an eye. So what you want to do when you plant this, when you pot this up, is clearly you want the eyes to face up. So here's a pot. Once your tuber is in the pot, you want that eye to face up. So because this tuber is so small, I think what I'll do is I'll just plant the whole tuber. So I'm inspecting it right now to see if there are any other eyes anywhere else on the tuber, and I don't see any. At least I can't make them out. So when you're in a situation like that, just go ahead and plant the whole tuber. So this other Miss Brandy, I don't know. It's kind of questionable. I don't see any indications of an eye Ah, that's why I'm saying I need a magnifying glass. But I'm gonna wait for this camera to kind of focus in, and I think I see an eye. So I'm using my iPhone, guys. So right there, that is an eye. That little red speck is an eye. So I'm not going to throw this one away. So we'll keep both of my Miss Brandies. Moving over to Mr. Optimus. I can't readily make out any eye in this Mr. Optimus. All right, this other group right here, this other clump. And guys, the storage process for these tubers has been just a little fussy. So I'd say probably 3 times a month I'd have to go in there and spritz, because as you can tell, they're pretty desiccated. Now, usually that is dependent on the humidity range that you have in the storage location. So clearly, if you have little humidity, then things are going to dry out pretty quick. What you're looking for as far as a viable tuber is, one, it has to be relatively solid, and when you squeeze it, it has to feel like it's still alive, if you know what I mean. It can't be like, just comparison. This one right here is clearly shriveled up and dried out. However, this one right here is still meaty, and it's still taut. Again, the criteria is a stem, an eye, and of course, at least 2 chunks. Sometimes you can get away with 1 chunk. When I say chunk, I mean this is a chunk, that's a chunk, this is a chunk. I don't know what other terminology to use, so when I say chunk, you know what I'm talking about. All right, so let's speed this along. This right here is the white decorative dahlia. She got pretty desiccated too. I can't even make out any. Oh, there we go. There we go. So I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me get my X-Acto knife. Here are some eyes. So the white decorative dahlia, her eyes are white. You guessed it. So here's an eye. Here's another eye. So this one right here is a little more plump, and I think I see an eye. That right there. That white spot right there is an eye. And it seems to be right in the crevice of the tuber. Here is another eye tucked. I don't know if the camera could pick that up. But you guys can see the difference of color. So that right there, that white spot, that's another eye. All right. Now over here is the tricolor. All right. And over here, these, you can readily tell that they have eyes on these. This one right here is a very colorful eye. Right there. All right. Here's a stem, there's an eye, and there's 2 or more chunks of tuber. Some of this will have to get cut away right there. That little pink purple color right there, that's an eye. Here, it's clearly has an eye. Eyes, plural. There's an eye right here. Right here. Here's another eye right over here. So this one here is a prime candidate for division. And how you can tell is, remember that criteria I was telling you earlier. If it has an eye, it has a piece of stem right here. So what you do is you make sure a piece of stem is intact, you have an eye, and then you have the tubers, okay? This other one right here looks a little weird, but here's an eye, here's stem right here. All of this right here is stem, and all of this right here is a tuber. Now the tuber is the food reservoir for your dahlias. So for your dahlia plant. So the eye is where the growth starts. Then you have the stem, and then you have the food pack or the food resource, which is the tuber. So that unit is what consists of a viable tuber that's coming out of dormancy. All right. So, all right, let's get to potting these up.